Buddy, I want to go over your classwork from yesterday. You should have done it in your notebook or on a piece of paper. So I'm going to go through these couple of questions with you guys so you can check your work. So make sure you take that work out before we get started. So I kind of want to talk about the cross canceling or cross simplifying that we can do beforehand, because I know this is not the easiest skill. You can't do it for every single question, and the first question is a good example. So this first question is a good example of where we cannot cross cancel or cross simplify at all. Okay, and I'll show you why. Ooh, it's a race. I'll show you why here. So when we do our cross canceling or cross simplifying, we're really looking at on the first numerator and the opposite denominator. So again, like I mentioned in the video prior, that if you kind of extend out the multiplication symbols, the lines will touch numbers, and those are the numbers we're looking at to do our cross canceling or cross simplifying. And for us to be able to do cross canceling or cross simplifying, we have to find a number that can go evenly into both of those numbers. So again, when we look at our cross simplifying here, we're going to be looking at this numerator here and the opposite denominator and saying, is there any number that I can divide into both of them? So that means really we're thinking about the factors of it. For the numbers 1 and 5, the only number that can go into both of them is the number 1. And that's not going to change anything. So we're not going to divide by the number 1. Next, we're going to look at the other numerator with the first denominator, right? Again, we look at these multiplication symbols. If you draw a line directly through, it should touch those two numbers. And you're thinking, again, is there a number that I can divide into both that numerator and that denominator, in this case 2 and 3? And again, the only number is 1. And when we divide things by 1, it does not change that number. So in this first question, we cannot cross simplify or cross cancel at all. So we have to just multiply our numerators. So 1 times 3 to get a new numerator. And then we have to multiply our denominators. 2 times 5 is 10. And most of the time we do that, our answer will be in simplest form. So if we cannot cross cancel, most of the time your answer will be in simplest form. Now let's take a look at the next one here. Okay, we're going to look at 7/8 times 4/5. And we're going to look to cross cancel again. So that's going to be the first step we want to do. So I'm looking at this 7 here. And if I draw that multiplication symbol out, that 7 connects with the 5. Is there a number that I can divide into 7 that also can go into 5? That's what we're thinking about. And there isn't, or the only number is 1. So we're not able to cross cancel from between 7 and 5. Now we're looking at the other ones. We're looking at now 8 and 4. Again, this denominator and the opposite numerator, right? That multiplication symbol, if we extend it out, they touch. And there is a number that I can divide into both of them. And I always want the biggest number that I can divide into both of them. So I could divide them both by 2, but there's a bigger one. They can both be divided by 4, right? I can divide 8 by 4 and I can divide 4 by 4. So now I'm going to go ahead and do my division and rewrite this problem. So nothing happened to the 7 for that numerator, and we had 8 divided by 4, and we're still multiplying our fractions, and then we have 4 divided by 4, and nothing happened to our 5. So now when we go to multiply, we're multiplying numerators and then denominators, so 7 times 1, and then denominators to get our answer. And our answer should be in simplest form. Now, we don't have to do that, right? If we don't cross cancel, you can still get to this answer, but you're going to have to simplify at the end. So we could just say, all right, let's multiply our numerators and then multiply our denominators. So 7 times 4 is 28. And then we're going to multiply our denominators, and 5 times 8 is 40. So now I have to simplify this 28/40ths to get to my answer. I'm going to tell you it's going to be 7/10 because I can divide both of them by 4, right? 28 can be divided by 4 and 40 can be divided by 4, and that's how we get to the 7/10. So the reason I like the cross canceling is you're working with smaller numbers, right? 8 and 4 are much easier, smaller numbers to work with compared to 28 and 40. All right, let's take a look at another one, or I should say the next set of questions. So let's see about this first one about cross canceling. So again, I'm going to be looking at 5/9 times 3/4, and we're looking at the first numerator. Oh, I don't know why I didn't circle. The first numerator, and that extended the opposite denominator. So as I look at these two, there's nothing that goes into 5 that also goes into 4. Again, the number 1 does, but that will not change our answer, or I should say our number, which that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to make them smaller. Let's look at the other ones. Let's look at our 9 and the opposite numerator is 3. Again, remember, extending that line on our multiplication symbol will kind of connect those numbers for us. There is a number that we can divide them both by. 3 can be divided by 3, and 9 can be divided by 3. So now let's go ahead and rewrite our problem. So we'll have 5 as our numerator, the first fraction, because nothing happened there. 9 divided by 3 is 3. And this is still a multiplication problem. We have 3 divided by 3, which is 1. And we didn't do anything to our 4. So then we can go ahead and multiply our numerators and multiply our denominators. And again, look, it came out in simplest form, right? We could, I know I'll show you one last time, we could just say, okay, let's do 5 times 3, our numerators, that's 15. And then 9 times 4 is 36. And then we'd have to simplify. And when we do simplify, we would be simplifying and getting 5/12 by dividing them both by 3. All right, let's take a look at the next one. So we have 4/7 and 1/2 that we're multiplying together. So let's look at cross canceling. Again, I like to start at our first numerator and that second denominator when I'm looking at them. And I notice I can divide them both by 2. And then let's take a look at our other ones, 7 and 1. I can't do anything with those. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. Nothing happened to the 7. Nothing to the 1, and 2 divided by 2 is 1, and then multiply numerators, multiply denominators. So there are 2 answers here. Here's this one, and that's the first one there. Again, these are in simplest form, okay? Last page to go over before you're going to have some extra practice today with these. So let's, again, look to see if we can cross cancel or cross simplify. So 7 and the opposite denominator is also 7. So that's nice. When they're both the same number, we can divide them by that number, right? 7 can be divided by 7. And then let's look at our other ones. Let's look at our first denominator with our second numerator, and those can be divided by 4. Look at that, 4 divided by 4 and 8 divided by 4. So we're actually going to get a fairly small 2 fractions here, or I should say, yeah, they'd both be fairly small. So 7 divided by 7 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Multiplying, 4 divided by 4 is 1. 7 divided by 7 is 1. And look at that, our answer in simplest form. This one would be rather large to do, right? We would have 7 times 4 is 28. 7 times 6. And then we'd have to simplify to get to our 1/2. And finally, our last question, 1/2 times 3/4. So if I'm looking at this 1 and this 4, I can't do any cross canceling or cross simplifying there. And then if I look at the numerator here with the first denominator, I can't do any cross canceling or cross simplifying there. So I'm just going to multiply my numerators and multiply my denominators, and let's just make sure 3/8 is in simplest form. All right, guys, you're going to have some more practice today with multiplying fractions. So please refer back to this video or the video from yesterday as much as you need to make sure that you are doing it correctly. If you need a refresher on simplifying fractions, remember under the 4th grade reference tab, 4th grade refreshers tab, there's a video on how to simplify fractions.